Welcome to Explorers Club. I'm Miss Mary, the Storytime Programmer at the Faulkner County Library in Conway, Arkansas. And this week's Explorers Club was inspired by a particular animal. And I'm going to give you some clues to see if you can figure it out, okay? With lots of hair and a super strong smelling nose, I can walk around on the ground, reach up high on my toes. My favorite dish is lots of fish, but I also eat berries and mice. If I see snow, I like to go somewhere warm and nice. Did you figure it out? This week's Explorers Club is inspired by the animal bears. Bears. So I like that little body rhyme because bears walk on all fours, but they can also stand up on just 2 feet to reach up high into the air, maybe to grab some food. And they also have a really, really great sense of smell. They're omnivores, which means they will eat things like mice. They'll eat other animals, and they also eat plants. They especially love berries. Let's see. Oh, but the biggest thing I'm thinking about this week is that bears enter into a kind of hibernation called a torpor when it gets cold in the winter. Yeah. So let's do that body movement one more time. And if you've got space at home, you can bend over and actually walk on all fours on the ground. And you can actually lay down on the ground, the sleepy part. Oh, I'm so excited to do this together. Okay, here we go. With lots of hair and a super strong smelling nose, I can walk around on the ground, reach up high on my toes. My favorite dish, yeah, cup your hands like a dish, is lots of fish, but I also eat berries and mice. If I see snow, I like to go sleep somewhere warm and nice. Shh. Okay, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about what hibernation is. What do you guys think hibernation is? Well, is it cold right now, or at least colder than it is in the summer? Yeah, we're in the season of winter, our coldest season. And you know, when it gets colder and the days get shorter, are you finding it harder to wake up in the morning? I know I am. But guess what? We're not the only animals that have those inclinations. As a matter of fact, there are some animals that no matter how loudly their parents might tell them to get up, they don't get up at all. They just stay asleep all winter, hibernating. That's right, when the environment becomes too cold or hostile for an animal, the animals have to find a way to cope with that. So some animals may migrate or leave the area, like birds or ducks, and others might enter a very inactive state where they stay still until the weather is warm again, and that's called hibernation. But you know, it's odd enough, if you do it in a warm climate, it's called estivation, but whatever, we're talking about hibernation today. So I thought I would show you some of the coolest hibernators I've seen, and some that are super seasonally deep sleepers, kind of like bears. So let's see if you can tell what this is. It's a bird. Now, it isn't often that you hear about a bird that sleeps the bad weather away, but that's because this bird, the common porwheel, is the only bird species that hibernates. It picks a spot under shallow rocks or rotten logs and stays there for up to 5 whole months. So its daily energy needs drop by 93%, and it can stay asleep for 100 days. Once hibernation is over though, it needs 7 hours to get its body temperature back up to normal. I think that's pretty cool. What's this? Can you tell? Yeah, it's a bat. Now, when bats are left alone, they can be some of the longest hibernators. In the wild, big brown bats have spent 64 to 66 days in hibernation while in captivity. One lasted an incredible, are you ready for this? 344 days. These little guys don't have to eat, but they do have to wake up and drink. Their heart rate drops from 1,000 beats a minute to only 25 beats a minute when they're hibernating. And some bats, when they're hibernating, will only take a breath every 2 hours. Wow. What animal is that? It's a box turtle. And did you know that box turtles hibernate? They sure do. Now, the length of a box turtle's hibernation depends on its location. Sometimes it's only 77 days, sometimes it's as long as 154 days, and their heartbeats drop to just once every 5 to 10 minutes. And they don't have to breathe in air at all. How does that work? They do take in oxygen through their skin, I found out. But they are still very sensitive to the changing environment around them when they're hibernating, and if they wake up too early, they likely won't survive. So if you find a hibernating box turtle, be sure to leave it alone. Okay, guess which animal this was. I don't know what you guys are gonna think about it. That's right, these are garter snakes, and garter snakes hibernate in groups. In Canada, where it gets even colder than it does here in the South United States, there can be hundreds, sometimes thousands of snakes grouped together for warmth. But once spring arrives and the snow melts, they head out of their winter homes to bask in the sun. I bet that would be something to see. Wow. Okay. This animal hibernates. Do you recognize it? It's a snail, and what is cool about being a snail is snails have a built-in bed for their hibernation. They just go into their shell, close up the hole with the skin made of chalk and slime that keeps the moisture in, and while they're hibernating, they use almost no energy at all. And in some areas where there's very little rain, snails can hibernate for years. And of course, the animal that inspired today, bears. Now, only 4 species of bear are actual true hibernators. The American black bear, the Asiatic black bear, the brown bear, and believe it or not, the polar bear. Now, these furry mammals don't hibernate in the true sense because their body temperature only drops a little bit, and they can actually wake up at any moment. This is something called a torpor. It's not a genuine hibernation. It's called a T-O-R-P-O-R. Torpor? In fact, a pregnant mama bear will have her cubs, will have her cubs during the hibernation period. Now, their heartbeats still slow down, and they can still go for a long time without having any food. They can last as long as 100 days without eating or drinking. Wow. So if you want to know more about bears and hibernation or just hibernating animals at all, there are a lot of really great websites out there with some really good information. And we have some cool books here at the library too. Okay, so we talked about how snakes hibernate and bats hibernate, and of course bears. And let's see here, did you know, we talked about how turtles hibernate, did you know that frogs hibernate too? They sure do. And of course, we talked about how snails hibernate. But there's one animal that we haven't talked about. It's an animal that has very bold, contrasting fur colors. Let's see if you can figure it out. It lives in the forest. It walks on all fours. It has a long, bushy tail. And when it gets scared, woo, boy, you can smell it. That's right, I'm talking about a skunk. So I thought today, for our Make making part of Explorers Club, we can make a paper bag skunk puppet. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. Let's get started. So, what you'll need to make this, let me show you what will be in your kit first. You'll have a paper bag, and you will have the sheet of pattern paper. You will have a sheet of black paper and a sheet of white paper. You will also have a couple of googly eyes, a black pom-pom, and at home you will need a pair of scissors, you will need some glue, and you will need a black crayon, a black marker, or some black paint. The first thing that we actually need to do is, you might want to trim. If you have a short distance between the puppet up here and your elbow, you can trim off the bottom of it. So do that now with your scissors if you want to. But now I'm gonna get busy and I am going to color this whole front of the bag with my black marker. Okay, so I really think if I make another one of these, I will use crayons. I think it might actually look better, be easier to color. You can definitely see my messy coloring with the marker here, but paint would probably be faster, but then you'd have to wait on it to dry, so artist choice. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is to cut the shapes out of the pattern sheet and use those to trace shapes on our paper and go from there. So here's the pattern sheet and we're going to cut these shapes out. So there's a triangle shape for its head, and this shape here is going to be for the ears. And then these two shapes are for the tail. So we're going to trace the large tail and the two ears onto the black paper. And this can be a little tricky. I think it is easiest to use for visibility a white crayon. I'm not going to get up and go grab a white crayon, but a pencil works pretty well because when the light shines on it, you can see the pencil on the black paper pretty well. Oh, we need two ears. You can't just have one ear. Okay, so assembling the skunk is actually pretty easy. We're going to glue the white stripe onto the center of the skunk's face, like this. All right, so we have glued the white triangle to the center of the skunk's face. And then we're gonna glue the two ears here on the back. Then we're gonna make the tail. Okay, now I think the last thing to do is to glue on the eyes. So get out a couple of googly eyes. And a black pom-pom for the nose. So since I have the pom-pom in my hand. And there's our little skunk puppet. Hello, skunk puppet. What shall I name you? You. My name is Hugh, and you need to put my nose back on. All right, this is Kwanzaa by Rebecca Pettiford and published by Bullfrog Books. Ooh, there's a table of contents here. What is Kwanzaa? Kwanzaa begins on December the 26th. It is an African American holiday. What does Kwanzaa mean? It means first fruits of the harvest. How do African Americans celebrate? We honor our history. See our clothes? They are from Africa. Kwanzaa lasts 7 days. We talk about 7 ideas. There is one idea a day. Look at our table. We set out symbols. Food makes us think of the harvest. Cup. The cup is for family. We have 7 candles. We light one each day. They sit in a wood kinara. There it is. Tia lights the first candle. What color is it? Black. 3 more are red. 3 are green. We play music. Mark plays a drum. Anna dances. It's the last day. Amon gets a gift. Happy Kwanzaa! And then here in the back, there are the symbols of Kwanzaa diagram, the 7 candles, the unity cup, crops, mat, corn, gifts, the kinara. And there's a picture glossary. It talks about Africa, harvest, African Americans, and symbols.
I found this on the web.
Siri thinks I'm talking to her. Anyway, that is a really cool book. We have lots of these books in our library, these different holiday books that can help us learn about different holidays and different cultural celebrations. Thanks for joining me while I learned about Kwanzaa. I hope you learned something too. All right, thanks for joining me today as we learned about hibernating animals. We learned how to make a skunk puppet, and if you get your materials, you'll have the materials and the directions to make this puppet. You'll get your animal tracks matching. And thanks for joining me while we learned about the holiday Kwanzaa as well. I love you. Mwah. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.